Good evening, my little creatures of the night. Mr. Wendigo back again with your late night creature feature. Before we begin, I'm curious. Where are you listening from tonight? Alone in your room? Driving through empty roads? Drop a comment and let me know. I like knowing who's out there in the dark with me. Now then, let's see what tonight's tale brings us. Wrecker Rourke. You ever meet a man who looks like he was built out of old fence posts and bad decisions? Not tough guy tough. I mean work tough. The kind of tough that comes from sleeping in your truck, eating gas station burritos, and making your money one broken bolt at a time. Rourke Mercer was that man. But nobody called him Rourke Mercer. Everybody called him Wrecker Rourke. Because if your rig rolled off a forest road and ended up upside down in a wash, or buried in snow so deep you couldn't see the hood ornament, or snapped an axle 30 miles past where your phone stops being a phone, you didn't call a buddy. You called Wrecker Rourke. And if he told you, yeah, I can get it, you believed him like a prayer. I met him one fall up north, in elkcountry, where the air bites your nose at night and the mornings smell like pine sap and diesel. He was at the end of the bar, nursing a beer like it owed him money. The boots were still dusty, the hands still black around the nails like he never fully washed the work off. I didn't know who he was at first. Not until some guy came in, all frantic, and asked the bartender, "Anybody seen Wrecker Rourke?" Rourke didn't even turn around, just lifted 2 fingers. "Yeah, I'm here. Don't make it weird." The frantic guy froze like he didn't expect the legend to be sitting under a neon beer sign. "Rourke," the guy said, I need help." Rourke finally looked back, the eyes tired, the face calm, like he'd already made peace with whatever dumb thing this was gonna be. "You need help, or you need someone to drag your mistake out of the woods so your wife doesn't find out?" The guy blinked. Rourke smiled just a little, not friendly, more like he enjoyed being right. "I'm kidding. Tell me where it is." That's how he talked. Dark humor, dry as old jerky. It wasn't to impress anybody. It was how he stayed steady in places that made other men panic. The guy stammered something about a Chevy with a cracked oil pan, and Rourke wrote it down on a napkin, charged him $200 up front, and told him to go home. The guy left looking grateful and broke. Rourke finished his beer. Someone down the bar said, "You ever turn down a job?" Rourke thought about it. Once. "What was it?" "Guy wanted me to pull his mother-in-law's Buick out of a pond." Rourke's face stayed flat. "I told him to let it sink." The bar laughed. But I could tell Rourke wasn't joking. He had a thing about jobs that felt wrong, jobs where the story didn't add up, where guys called at weird hours with shaky voices and wouldn't meet your eyes when you asked questions. Most of the time, he took those jobs anyway, because someone had to. And the story I'm about to tell you, that one didn't start as a monster story. It started as another recovery call, just like all the others. Chapter 1, The Call. It was late October, first real cold week. Snow threatened every night but didn't commit, just dusted the tops of the pines and left the roads slick and mean. Elk season had the whole area crawling with hunters, out-of-towners in shiny trucks with gear that cost more than Rourke's monthly mortgage. Locals with beat-up rigs and cheap rifles that could still put meat on a table. You'd hear shots in the distance and then the long quiet after, like the mountain holding its breath. That night, Rourke got a call while he was tightening a winch line back onto the spool, knuckles raw from the work, the cold making his joints stiff. He always answered the phone the same way. "Yeah." No hello, no company name, just yeah. The voice on the other end was shaky, male, trying not to sound like it. "We got a truck stuck out on the old service road off 4 Pines. We can't find it." Rourke paused, his hand stopping on the winch hook. "You can't find it. It's not where it was. We hiked back in and it's not there. Like it moved. Trucks don't move on their own. There was a silence on the line where you could hear wind blowing, and then the guy said it quieter. Something killed my buddy. Rourke's face didn't change much, but the eyes did. The tiredness sharpened into something else. Where are you? They gave him coordinates that weren't really coordinates, mostly landmarks. A gate, a bend, a dead snag shaped like a lightning bolt. Hunters talk like that when they're scared, like if they make the place sound normal, the thing that happened there might be normal too. Rourke wrote it down on the back of a receipt, grease-stained paper from a breakfast burrito he'd eaten 6 hours ago. Stay in your vehicle. Doors locked. If you hear something walk around your truck, don't play hero. You understand? The guy said yes too fast. Rourke hung up and just stood there for a second. Not fear, calculation. He'd gotten calls like this before. Not often, but enough to recognize the pattern, the voice that said more than the words did. The way guys talked around what they'd seen because saying it out loud made it real. Rourke had pulled a truck out of a ravine once where the driver swore something with red eyes had chased him off the road. Another time, a guy claimed his truck wouldn't start because something was sitting on the hood. Wouldn't move, just sat there, watching him through the windshield. Both times, Rourke showed up and found nothing. But both times, the guys weren't lying. You could see it in their faces. They'd seen something. Rourke walked into his house. He had 5 daughters. You could tell before you even saw them the place looked like a war zone of glitter and socks. Little shoes by the door in about 12 different sizes. Plastic hair clips in the couch cushions. A princess blanket draped over a chair like it owned the room. The oldest was 13. The youngest was 4. All girls. Rourke moved quiet through the living room. Didn't want to wake them. He leaned into the hallway and looked down it. A small nightlight glowed in one of the bedrooms. Pink, shaped like a unicorn. He watched it for a second, jaw tight. Then he went to the kitchen table and took a pen. He scribbled a note, folded it, left it under a coffee mug. His wife wasn't home. Night shift, hospital, 3rd one this week. She worked labor and delivery, came home smelling like antiseptic and tired in a way sleep didn't fix. The note wasn't romantic, it was practical. Back late, call if you need, love you. He paused, then added one more line. Tell the girls I'm not dying tonight. It wasn't a joke. It was a promise. Rourke folded the note again and left it there, then walked back out to the garage. His truck sat there like a black animal waiting, not your average tow rig. This thing was a diesel Dodge 3500, lifted, heavy-duty bumper, and 40-plus-inch tires that looked like they belonged on a tank. People always talk about trucks like they're toys. Rourke's wasn't a toy. It was a tool. And sometimes it was a weapon. He loaded what he always loaded: chains, straps, snatch blocks, a shovel, a come-along he didn't trust but carried anyway, a medical kit he hoped stayed unopened, flares, a headlamp with fresh batteries, extra gloves because his last pair had torn on a frozen chain. Then he grabbed his rifle. A .30-06, nothing fancy. The scope was scratched. The stock had a crack he'd duct-taped 2 years ago. But it worked. He slid the rifle behind the seat, then grabbed his shotgun too, 12-gauge, loaded with slugs. Not because he expected a bear. Because hunters don't call at night saying something killed my buddy unless something is wrong. He climbed in, turned the key. The engine rolled over and then caught, deep and steady, the whole truck vibrating like it was eager. Rourke patted the dash once. Don't do anything stupid, he told it. Then he drove into the dark. The road up there is the kind of road that makes you feel alone even if you aren't. Pines closing in on both sides. No streetlights, no houses. just the occasional reflective marker in your own headlights carving a tunnel through trees. Rourke's radio crackled once, then died. He glanced at it like it offended him. Good. Didn't feel like listening to anyone anyway. The pavement turned to gravel, then the gravel turned to dirt. The truck handled it fine. The tires didn't care. But Rourke noticed something before he even saw the hunters. No animal noise. No little movement in the brush. Not even a squirrel. The woods were quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like something had pressed the mute button. He'd felt this before. Once, when he was 12, walking through the woods behind his uncle's property. The birds had stopped singing. The wind had stopped moving. And then his uncle grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back, said, "When the forest goes quiet, you go quiet too." They'd stood there for 5 minutes, didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. But when they walked back, his uncle said, "Something was watching us." Rourke believed him then. He believed it now. He found the hunters pulled off in a turnout, 2 trucks, headlights on, doors shut, no one standing outside like normal. Rourke pulled in and killed his headlights. For a second, everything went pitch black except their beams cutting through the trees. Then the driver's door of the nearest truck opened and a guy stepped out, rifle in hand, eyes wild. Rourke got out slow. He didn't run. He didn't act excited. He walked like he had all night. You wrecker, Rourke?" Rourke looked him up and down. Late 20s, good gear, expensive jacket, hands shaking. "Depends. You got money?" The guy swallowed. Yeah, whatever. I just my friend." Rourke held up a hand. "Start from the beginning, and if you say it was a bear, I'm leaving." The guy took a breath like he was trying to pack courage into his lungs. "We were tracking a bull. Biggest I've ever seen. Antlers like branches off a dead tree. We followed it past the gate, past the posted signs. So you trespassed." The guy flinched. "We didn't think." "Okay, keep going." The hunter nodded fast, his breath puffing white in the cold. "We saw it in a clearing. It looked wrong, like it was too tall, but we thought it was just the angle, the way it was standing. My buddy Derek, he raised his rifle. The bull turned its head and looked right at us." Rourke's eyes stayed flat. "Elk look at people." "Not like this." The guy's voice cracked. "It looked like it knew we were there the whole time, like it was waiting for us." Rourke leaned in a little, listening for something beyond the words. "Derek shot. He hit it. I saw blood. Black blood. It sprayed on the snow. The bull didn't even flinch. It just walked into the trees. Slow. Like it was annoyed we'd interrupted something." "So you chased a wounded elk at dusk." The guy didn't argue. He looked ashamed and terrified at the same time. "We followed. We shouldn't have. We know. But Derek said we had to finish it. Said it was the right thing to do. Said you don't leave a wounded animal to suffer." The hunter's voice dropped. "And then we heard something. Not hoofbeats. Footsteps. Heavy. Like boots on dirt." He pointed into the dark beyond the turnout. Derek stopped. I stopped. We both heard it, walking around us in a circle. Not running. Walking. Deliberate. And then Derek said he saw something moving through the trees. Something tall. Too tall to be the bull on all fours. The guy's hands were shaking worse now. I told him we should go back, get help. But Derek said he wasn't leaving without the bull. Said he'd tracked it too far to quit now. And then, the hunter's voice broke. And then Derek screamed. Rourke waited, let the silence do its job. The hunter's eyes shined with tears he refused to let fall. I ran toward the sound. I found his rifle on the ground, and his hat, and then I saw the drag marks. Something had pulled him into the brush, I heard God. I heard him choking. Wet sounds. And then it stopped. How long between the scream and the silence? The guy blinked. What? How long did it take? Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe less. Rourke's jaw tightened. That was fast. Too fast for a bear. Too fast for anything that just wanted to kill. And the tracks? Elk tracks. But then, they changed. Changed how? The hunter swallowed hard, then said it. They went from 4 to 2. Rourke didn't laugh. Not this time. He just said, "Show me." They walked together, headlamps on, the beams bouncing over needles and rocks. Rourke's boots didn't crunch loud. He stepped careful, like he was thinking about every footfall. The hunter walked too fast, too loud, kept looking over his shoulder. "Slow down," Rourke said. "You run, you fall, you're meat." The guy slowed. They reached a spot where the dirt was soft, damp from the last snowmelt. And there they were. Elk prints, deep, heavy, the size of dinner plates. Rourke crouched, dragged 2 fingers along the edges. The dirt was still loose, fresh enough that it held shape. Then he followed them forward with his light. 4 tracks, 4 tracks, 4 tracks. Then, 2 deep impressions, longer, narrower than hooves should be, like something had pressed the ground with weight and purpose. Like feet, but not human feet. The toes were too long, too spaced, and there were claw marks at the tips. Rourke stood up slow. "You see it," the hunter whispered. Rourke nodded once, then looked around. The trees stood close, tall pines, black gaps between trunks. The kind of gaps where your eyes play tricks, where shadows look like shapes and shapes look like they're moving. He didn't like how the darkness seemed to gather. "Where's the truck?" The hunter pointed uphill. "Further in. We got turned around in the dark. But we found it earlier, and then it wasn't there when we came back. Like it moved." Rourke exhaled through his nose. "Trucks don't move," he said again, but quieter now, like he was trying to convince himself. They followed the tracks. Rourke kept one hand near his rifle strap. The hunter kept scanning with his light like he expected something to jump into the beam. They walked maybe 10 minutes, uphill, the air getting colder, the trees getting denser. And then they saw something. A shape in the trees, metal reflecting faintly. A truck. The missing truck. Rourke approached it the way he approached any recovery, eyes on the ground, checking hazards, checking angles. But this wasn't rolled over. It wasn't sunk in mud. It was sitting upright, perfectly straight, engine off, lights off, like someone had parked it there. The doors were open, and the inside was wrong. The driver's seat was shredded, not torn, shredded, like something with strong hands had grabbed the foam and ripped it out in handfuls. Blood sprayed across the dash, the steering wheel, the ceiling, and the steering wheel had bite marks. Not teeth marks from an animal. Bite marks, human-shaped, but bigger. Rourke leaned in, sniffed once, pulled back. "You got bears up here with human mouths?" "Stop," the hunter whispered. Rourke didn't stop. He pointed at the ground. There were drag marks leading away from the truck. Something heavy pulled, the dirt gouged, pushed up in ridges. And beside the drag marks was a smear of blood leading into the trees. The hunter made a sound like he wanted to vomit. Rourke's voice stayed steady. "Derek went that way." The hunter nodded, shaking. We tried to go after him. We heard him screaming, and then he stopped." Rourke looked at him. "And you didn't keep going." The hunter stared at the ground like a guilty kid. "Smartest thing you've done tonight." Then Rourke took a breath and reached into the truck, grabbed the keys still dangling in the ignition, held them up, jingled them once. "Congratulations, your truck's found." The hunter didn't smile. Rourke leaned closer, said it low. "Now get back to your vehicle. Turn it around, drive out, don't stop, don't wait for your buddy, don't wait for me." The hunter's eyes widened. "What about, if you stay, you're next, and I'm not dragging 2 trucks out tonight." The hunter hesitated, like he wanted to argue, like he thought he should stay and help. Then something snapped in the woods. Not a branch. Something thicker. Bone. Rourke's head turned, his light cutting through the trees. Nothing. But the silence tightened, like the forest was listening too. Rourke's voice went cold. "Go." The hunter ran. Rourke watched him disappear down the trail, listened to the footsteps fade, then turned back to the truck. He looked at the drag marks again, followed them with his light into the trees. Then he muttered to himself, "All right, let's do the dumb thing." And he followed the blood. Chapter 2, The Bull on 2 Legs. The blood trail wasn't steady. It came in bursts, smears on rocks, dots on pine needles, a handprint on a tree trunk like Derek had tried to grab the world and hold himself up. Rourke moved with his light down low, kept his rifle in his hands now, safety off, finger outside the trigger guard but ready. Every few steps, he stopped and listened. Nothing. No breathing, no animal movement, no wind. Just his own boots and the soft hum of his headlamp. The air smelled wrong, not like pine and cold anymore. It smelled like meat left out too long, like copper and rot. After a while, he found something that made him stop cold. A pile of clothing. Derek's jacket, torn open, buttons scattered in the dirt, sleeves inside out like someone had yanked him out of it fast. Rourke didn't touch it. He looked past it. There were more tracks. And this time, the 2-footed prints were clearer. Long impressions with toes, actual toes pressed into damp dirt. Not human toes. Wrong shape. Too long, too spaced. And the claw marks at the tips were deeper now, like whatever was making them was pressing harder, moving faster. Rourke stared at them, then, because he was who he was, he said quietly, "Great. Elk learned to walk upright. What's next? Taxes?" The joke came out flat, not funny, just a way to keep his brain from running away with itself. He moved forward again. The trees opened into a small clearing, barely big enough to call it that, just a break in the pines where the moonlight fell in thin silver lines. And in that clearing, Derek was there, or what was left that could be called Derek. He was on his back, shirt gone, chest opened. Rourke had seen dead bodies before, car wrecks, rollovers, people who didn't wear seatbelts and turned into red paste on a steering wheel. But this was different. This was examined. Derek's ribs were spread wide, the sternum cracked clean down the middle like someone had pried it open with their hands. The organs were gone. Not eaten. Gone. Like they'd been removed and taken somewhere else. The skin around the wound was torn in strips, long gouges, claw marks. But it wasn't random. It was methodical, like something had opened him up to see how he worked. Derek's face was frozen in shock, eyes wide, mouth open, staring at the sky like he'd seen the last thing he ever wanted to see. Rourke stared for a long second, his jaw clenching hard enough you could see the muscles jump. He whispered, "I'm going to need a bigger invoice." Then he heard it. A slow scrape. Not behind him. Above. Rourke's head turned up, his light angling into the trees. And for one heartbeat, he saw it. A shape standing in the shadows between trunks. An elk. A bull elk. Huge. Antlers wide as a small car, points sharp, too many points. And it was too tall. It wasn't on all fours. It was upright. Not fully straight like a man, more like it was using the trees as balance. Its front legs, arms hung bent, joints wrong, too many angles. Its head was tilted slightly, like it was curious. And its eyes. God, its eyes. They didn't shine like an animal's eyes. They didn't reflect the light. They focused. Like a person. Rourke stared. The thing stared back, and then it smiled. Not with an elk mouth. With something that shouldn't exist. The lips pulled back. The teeth inside were flat and sharp at the same time. Human teeth, but filed, sharpened. Rourke felt the hair on his arms rise. He raised his rifle. The bull thing moved. Fast. It dropped down to all fours and launched, not charging like a normal elk. This was a predator sprint. Rourke fired. The shot blew out, the quiet like thunder. The bullet hit. Rourke saw it hit, punched through the creature's shoulder and sprayed dark blood. But the bull didn't slow. It slammed into him like a truck. Rourke went down hard. The air punched out of his lungs, his ribs screaming. He hit the ground and tasted dirt. Something heavy pressed on his chest. Not hooves. Hands. Hands with hard edges and wet warmth, blood dripping on his face. Rourke grunted and shoved up with all his strength. The thing's weight lifted just enough for him to roll. He came up on a knee, swung the rifle like a club, cracked it into the side of the creature's head. The antlers scraped bark. The bull thing hissed. Not an elk sound. A wet, human hiss. Rourke did not scream. He did not pray. He said, through clenched teeth, "Not tonight." And he ran, back toward his truck. Because Rourke Mercer was not a hero in the movie sense. He didn't stand there and duel a monster in a clearing. He did what he always did. He repositioned. He went for his tools. He sprinted through trees, lungs burning, ribs screaming with every breath. Behind him he heard branches snap, heavy footsteps, the scrape of antler against wood. He could feel it gaining. Close. Too close. The creature wasn't just chasing him. It was hurting him. Rourke realized it when he found himself running along a narrow deer path with thick brush on both sides, the only clear direction forward, and he heard the creature behind him slow down, like it knew he had nowhere else to go. He cut hard to the left, crashed through the brush, thorns tearing at his jacket, and heard the creature adjust, angling to cut him off. Smart. Too smart. Rourke broke through into a small ravine, loose rocks underfoot, and nearly went down. He caught himself on a tree trunk, kept moving, scrambled up the opposite side. The creature was right behind him now, close enough that he could hear its breathing, wet and ragged, close enough that he could smell it. Then his truck lights flashed through the trees. He hit the road, boots sliding on loose gravel, slammed into the driver's door. Yanked it open. Jumped in. Key. Ignition. The engine turned and stalled. Just dead. Silence. Rourke stared at the dash like it had betrayed him, leaned forward and whispered, low and furious, "Don't do this to me. I treat you better than my own kids." Something hit the tailgate. The whole truck rocked. Rourke's head snapped back. In his rearview mirror, he saw it. The bull thing reared up behind the truck, upright, hands on the bed rails like it was about to climb in. Its mouth opened, and the sound that came out, it wasn't a roar. It was a voice. Derek's voice. Screaming. "Help me. God, help me." Rourke's stomach dropped. The creature was mimicking. It leaned in close to the rear window, eyes locked on him, and it spoke in Derek's voice, broken and wet. "Please, it hurts. Help me." Rourke's face went blank. Then something else slid into his eyes. Anger. Pure, clean anger. "Don't you talk to me like you're him." He slammed the key again. The engine caught this time with a violent shake, black smoke puffing from the exhaust. Rourke floored it. The truck surged forward, tires spinning, gravel spraying. The bull thing lost grip and fell back, hit the road hard. Rourke didn't stop. He swung the truck in a tight arc, headlights washing the creature in white. It was down on one knee. Rourke saw its body clearer now. It was elkish, but wrong. The torso was too long, the ribs visible under skin like stretched leather. The front limbs ended in hands that looked like they'd been carved out of bone and tendon, 5 fingers, but too long. Joints bending wrong. Its neck was too thick, muscled, human-shaped but covered in dark fur. And the antlers looked like they had extra points, like they'd grown in directions they weren't supposed to, curved inward, sharp. The creature rose again, upright, slow, like it was deciding whether this was worth it. Rourke put the truck in gear, whispered, "Factory defect." Then he hit it. The Dodge slammed into the creature with a crunch, like hitting a tree. Metal groaned, the bumper bent, the creature folded, rolled, smashed into the ditch. Rourke's chest hurt. He was breathing hard, ribs on fire. He looked at the ditch. The creature lay there. Still, for half a second, Rourke almost believed it. Then its hand moved. It pushed into the dirt. It started to rise. Rourke's mouth went thin. "You're kidding me." The creature looked at him again, and in its eyes was something that made Rourke colder than the air. Not rage, not hunger, something like respect, like it had finally noticed the problem. Rourke shifted, grabbed his shotgun from behind the seat, chambered a shell. The sound was loud in the cab. The creature stood upright again, slower this time, blood dripping from its shoulder, from its mouth. It tilted its head, and then it took a step toward him. Slow, confident. Rourke kicked the door open, stepped out, raised the shotgun. He fired. The blast took a chunk out of its shoulder, the same shoulder, dark blood spraying, steaming in the cold. The creature flinched finally, then smiled again. It lifted its hand, and in a voice that wasn't Derek's now, but something deeper and older, it said, perfectly clear, "Rourke." Rourke froze. "How do you know my name?" The creature's mouth stretched and it made a sound that might have been laughter. Then it rushed the truck again. Rourke jumped back in, reversed hard, tires spitting gravel. The creature hit the front bumper, hands clawing for the hood. Rourke rammed forward again, slammed it back. The creature grabbed the winch line. Not accidentally. It grabbed it like it understood what it was. It yanked. Rourke felt the truck pull, like the creature was trying to drag him now. His ribs screamed. He leaned forward, teeth clenched. "You want a tug of war? Fine." He threw the truck into drive and punched it. The creature held on, feet digging into dirt, and for a moment it looked like it might actually stop the 3-500. Then its feet slipped. It went down. Rourke didn't let up, dragged it across the road a few feet, then the creature let go and rolled away. Rourke stopped, breathing hard. He stared out at it. The creature rose again, slower now, blood dripping from its mouth, from its hands. And Rourke realized something. It wasn't trying to kill him fast. It was trying to learn him, like he was a problem it wanted to solve. "Nah," Rourke whispered. He wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. the hand coming away red. Then he said something I'll never forget. Not loud. Just a statement. 5 girls at home. I don't got time to be educational. And then Rourke did what tow men do when they're done negotiating. He planned the recovery. Chapter 3, The Drag. This part is where the story stops being Hunter gets stalked in the woods and turns into something else. Because a normal man, at this point, would leave. A normal man would get in his truck and drive until he hit cell service and call every badge and gun within 50 miles. Rourke wasn't normal. And he wasn't leaving. He had 5 daughters sleeping in warm beds, a wife on shift in a hospital, and a thing in the woods that now knew his name. No, he wasn't leaving that loose in elk country. Not if he could help it. Rourke backed the truck up slow, keeping his headlights on the creature, watching it while it watched him. There was a tension there, like 2 animals circling. The creature stood upright, blood dripping, breathing hard, but not dead. Not even close. Rourke popped open his door, grabbed the winch controller, stepped out. The cold hit his face like a slap. He walked around to the front bumper. The winch line hung there, heavy, coiled steel. Rourke unspooled it with gloved hands, the metal cold even through the leather. The creature didn't rush him right away. It just stood there, upright, head tilted, watching like a dog watching a man load a gun. Rourke dragged the hook toward it, 30 feet, 20 feet, 10. He kept his shotgun in his other hand, barrel pointed down but ready. He muttered, "This is either genius or real stupid." Then he looked at the creature and said, like he was talking to a customer, "All right, big fella. You wanted attention. You got it." The creature stepped forward. Rourke raised the shotgun. "Try it." The creature stopped. It was close enough now that Rourke could smell it. Wet iron, old blood, and something sour like rot under bark. Rourke's stomach rolled. He forced it down, shifted the hook in his hands, lining it up. The creature's mouth opened. It tried Derek's voice again, softer this time, like it was testing a new angle. "Help." "Shut up," Rourke snapped. And then the creature lunged. It moved fast, but Rourke was faster than most men because his whole life was reacting to things that go wrong in 1 second. He didn't back away. He stepped into it, and when the creature's head came down toward him, Rourke drove the tow hook up, hard. Steel met flesh and bone with a sound like punching through frozen meat. The hook punched through the creature's lower jaw, ripped out the other side, and locked. The creature's mouth stretched wide, black blood spilling down its chest. It screamed. Not Derek's scream. Its own. And the sound was so wrong it made Rourke's teeth ache, high-pitched, wet, like metal scraping bone. Rourke staggered from the recoil of the impact, ribs screaming, but he didn't let go. He planted his boots and yanked the line back toward the truck. "Yeah, now we're talking." The creature thrashed, hands flailing, trying to grab him. Rourke swung the shotgun butt into its wrist. Bones cracked. The creature howled. Rourke stumbled backward, dragging the line, and slammed the winch controller button. The winch motor whined. The line went taut. The creature's head jerked forward, jaw stretched around the hook, mouth pinned open like a nightmare grin. Rourke backed up fast and climbed into the truck, hands shaking, not fear, adrenaline, pain. He put the truck in gear. Then he looked in the rearview mirror. The creature stood there, tethered to the winch line, jaw hooked, leaning forward like it could still rush him. Rourke smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who found leverage. "All right, towels included, screaming is extra." Then he hit the gas. The truck lurched forward. The lines snapped tight. The creature stumbled, tried to dig in, but the dirt gave way. It went down, dragged across gravel, its hands clawing the ground, leaving grooves, deep gouges in the dirt. Rourke drove. Not fast, not reckless, just steady, like he was hauling a totaled jeep out of a ditch. The creature thrashed behind him, rolling, trying to get its feet under it, managed to stand once upright, dragging its feet like a man being pulled by a chain. Its antlers slammed into a tree trunk and snapped off one tine with a crack. The creature screamed again. Rourke didn't flinch. He kept driving. The road wound downhill. Pines blurred past. The sky started to lighten. Not sunrise yet, but that gray pre-dawn that makes everything look dead. Rourke's chest hurt every time he breathed. He tasted blood. He had no idea how many ribs were cracked, but it didn't matter. Behind him, the creature tried again and again to rise, but every time it got purchase, the truck pulled it back down. The chain of the winch line stayed taut, singing with tension. Rourke watched the rearview mirror, watched the creature get pulled through rocks and gravel, watched it try to grab trees as it passed, watched the antlers scrape and break. The creature tried something different. It stopped fighting the pull and instead tried to run with it, getting its feet under it, loping forward on two legs like a man being dragged but trying to keep pace. For a moment, it almost worked. The creature got close enough to the truck that Rourke could see its eyes in the mirror, focused, determined, learning. Rourke accelerated. The creature's feet slipped again, and it went down hard, face first into gravel. "Nice try," Rourke muttered. A guardrail appeared along one section where the mountain dropped away, a steep cliff on the passenger side. The creature slammed into it. Metal shrieked. Antlers scraped sparks. One antler snapped at the base and tumbled into the road behind them, bouncing once, twice, then disappearing over the edge. The creature rolled, jaw still hooked, blood smearing the asphalt in a dark line that looked black in the early light. "He should have stayed four-legged," Rourke muttered. He drove another mile, then another. The creature's thrashing slowed, not because it gave up, but because it was losing blood, because its jaw was torn open and every bounce on the road ripped it wider. It still moved. It still tried. But it was running out of body. The road straightened out along a flat section, and Rourke could see the damage in his mirror. The creature's fur was torn, hanging in strips. One arm dragged at an angle that arms shouldn't bend. The remaining antler was cracked and splintered. But the eyes were still focused, still watching him. Rourke's phone buzzed in the cup holder, one bar of service blinking on. He ignored it. He wasn't calling anyone until this was done. The road opened to a wider turnout near an old quarry cut, one of those ugly scars on the mountain where they pulled rock out years ago and left a steep drop and piles of rubble. Rourke pulled in, killed the engine. Silence dropped like a blanket. Only the ticking of cooling metal and the wet rasp of the creature's breathing. He sat there for a second, hands on the wheel, breathing slow, feeling every one of his cracked ribs. Then he looked in the mirror. The creature lay behind the truck, on its side, jaw still pinned by the hook, eyes open, and they were locked on him. It wasn't dead. Not yet. Rourke got out. The cold hit him again. He walked toward it slow, every step deliberate. The creature's fingers twitched, its chest rising and falling in wet, rattling breaths. Rourke stood over it. The thing was massive up close, bigger than any elk should be, bigger than any thing should be. Its mouth hung open around the hook, blood bubbling at the corners. It tried to speak. Its throat worked, and in a voice shredded and broken, it whispered, "Rourke." Rourke crouched, leaned close, spoke quietly, like this was between them. "You don't get to say my name. You don't get to learn me. You don't get to follow me down off this mountain." He stood, looked at the quarry drop, then back at the creature. His face didn't show victory, just decision. He walked to the winch and released tension slowly, the line loosening a fraction. The creature tried to rise, but its jaw was too torn, its body too weak. Rourke unhooked the line from his winch point and rerouted it, quick, practiced, anchored it to a heavy rock post near the quarry edge like it was just another rigging job. Then he climbed back into his truck, started the engine. The diesel rumble filled the turnout. He rolled forward, pulling the creature toward the edge. The creature woke up then. It thrashed. It tried to grab the ground. Its hands scrabbled, nails scraping rock, leaving white gouges in the stone. Rourke kept going, slow, steady, like he was dragging a wrecked truck out of a mud hole. The creature's back legs kicked, its one good arm reaching for anything, finding nothing. It let out one last scream that sounded like wind through a dead tree, and then it slid over the edge. Its body dropped. The winch line snapped tight against the anchor. The creature swung, slammed into the quarry wall, bounced, then fell again further down, out of sight. The line hummed like a guitar string. Rourke sat there, listening. A long moment passed. Then the line went slack. Not because the creature climbed up, because it stopped fighting. Rourke stared at the drop, didn't smile, didn't cheer. He just whispered, almost like he was talking to himself. End of the line, no refunds. He sat in the truck for a minute, breathing, hands shaking, feeling the adrenaline drain away and leave only pain behind. Then he pulled out his phone and finally looked at it. A missed call. His wife. He called back. She answered on the second ring, voice worried. "Rourke, where are you?" He swallowed, throat raw. "Work. You okay?" He looked at the blood on his sleeve, the bruising already blooming on his hands, the dirt under his nails. "Yeah." Then, softer. "Yeah, I'm okay." She didn't believe him, but she knew him well enough not to push over the phone. "The girls asked where you were." Rourke closed his eyes for a second. "Tell him I'll be home for breakfast." "Rourke." "I'm fine, I promise." He hung up. Then he started the drive down the mountain. Chapter 4, Home. Rourke pulled into his driveway just as the sun cracked the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that looked too clean for what he'd just done. The house looked small, warm, lights on in the kitchen. He sat in the truck for a minute, engine ticking as it cooled, hand still on the wheel, just breathing. His whole body hurt. Every breath was a knife in his ribs. His hands were scraped raw. Blood had dried in the creases of his knuckles. But he was home. He got out slow, every movement careful, and walked to the door. It opened before he reached it. His wife stood there, still in scrubs, hair pulled back in a ponytail, eyes scanning him up and down with the practiced assessment of someone who'd seen her share of trauma. "You look like hell." Rourke nodded. "Feel like it, too." She grabbed his arm, gentle but firm, and pulled him inside. "Sit." He sat at the kitchen table, the same table where he'd left the note hours ago. The coffee mug was still there. The note was gone. She went to the cabinet and pulled out the medical kit, the real one, the one she kept stocked from the hospital, not the basic one in his truck. She worked in silence for a minute, cleaning the cut on his forehead with practiced efficiency, the scrapes on his hands, checking his face for other injuries. Then she moved to his ribs, her fingers gentle but probing. "Lift your shirt." He did. The bruising was already dark, spreading across his left side like spilled ink. She pressed carefully, watching his face. When she hit the third and fourth ribs, he winced. Cracked. Maybe 2. Possibly 3. Rourke winced. Yeah. You need X-rays. Later. Rourke. Later, he said again, but softer. Please. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. She wrapped his ribs tight, the compression wrap pulled snug but not constricting, taped it carefully, then handed him 2 pills and a glass of water. He swallowed them without asking what they were. Probably ibuprofen, maybe something stronger she'd brought home from the hospital. Then she sat across from him at the table and folded her hands, waiting. The silence stretched. Rourke looked at his hands, at the dirt still under his nails that he couldn't seem to scrub out, the blood dried in the creases of his knuckles. There was something up there. She didn't laugh, didn't roll her eyes, just asked, what kind of something? The kind that shouldn't exist. She nodded, like that made perfect sense, like she'd known the world had more in it than most people wanted to believe. Did you kill it? Rourke thought about it, about the creature at the bottom of the quarry, about the blood, the screaming, the way it said his name like it had learned him, understood him, maybe even respected him in some twisted way. I don't know. She reached across the table and put her hand on his, her skin warm against his cold fingers. But it's not following you home. Rourke looked at her, and for the first time that night, he felt something loosen in his chest, some tight knot of fear and rage that had been coiled there since the moment the creature first spoke his name. No, it's not following me home. She squeezed his hand once, then stood. I'm making pancakes. The girls will be up soon. Rourke nodded, watched her move to the stove, pulling out the griddle, the pancake mix, moving with the easy rhythm of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. He sat there at the table, breathing slow and careful, listening to the sounds of his house coming to life. The coffee maker gurgling, the furnace kicking on, little footsteps upstairs, quiet at first, then louder as someone started running. A door opened. His oldest daughter appeared in the doorway, hair messy from sleep, eyes still half closed, but she smiled when she saw him. Dad? Rourke smiled back. Hey, kiddo. She walked over and hugged him, and he had to bite back a grunt of pain when she squeezed, but he hugged her back anyway, careful, one arm around her shoulders. You smell like dirt. Yeah, had a long night. She pulled back and looked at him, really looked, and he saw her notice the bandage on his forehead, the way he was sitting, the careful way he breathed. Did you win? The question hit him harder than it should have. Rourke thought about it, about Derek lying open in the clearing, about the hunter who'd run, about the creature learning his name, about the drag down the mountain, about the drop into the quarry. Did he win? Yeah, he said finally. I won. She smiled, satisfied, and ran back upstairs to wake her sisters, yelling something about pancakes. Rourke sat there, and for the first time in hours, he let himself feel it, the pain, the fear, the exhaustion grinding down on him like a weight, but also the relief, because he'd gone up that mountain, and he'd come back down, and nothing had followed him home. Weeks later, people still talked about missing hunters, about a bull elk no one could find, about weird tracks in the snow, about trucks that moved on their own. Rourke didn't tell anyone the truth. He didn't walk into town and brag, didn't post pictures, didn't even go back up there. Because some men don't need credit. They just need to know the thing is handled. I saw him again once, months later. Same bar, same stool. Someone brought up the elkcountry stories, the whispers, the fear. Rourke took a sip of beer, then said, like it was nothing, Yeah, well, mountain's got problems. Someone asked him, "You ever see anything weird out there?" Rourke didn't look up. "I see weird every day. I charge by the hour." Then he added, "Dry as dust. And for the record, if an elk stands up like a man, shoot it in the mouth." Someone laughed, but I didn't, because I'd seen the scars on his hands, seen the way he moved, careful, like his ribs still hurt months later, and I'd seen the way he looked at the mountains through the bar window. Not afraid, just aware, like he knew something the rest of us didn't. And the thing about Wrecker Rourke, he wasn't fearless. He was worse than that. He was committed. Because when you've got 5 daughters sleeping in warm beds and a wife who trusts you to come home, you don't leave monsters loose in elk country. You hook them, you drag them, and you drop them where they can't follow. That's not heroism. That's just work. And Rourke Mercer? He was damn good at his work. Folklore note. The indigenous peoples of the Rocky Mountain region have traditions concerning elk that walk wrong. The Shoshone, Ute, and Arapaho tribes pass down warnings about creatures that wear animal skins to hunt skinwalkers in Navajo tradition, or similar entities across many cultures. In lean winters, when starvation grips the high country, some believe these entities take the form of elk, the largest bulls, the ones that survive when they shouldn't. They learn to walk upright, to mimic human speech, to understand the patterns of hunters. The old ranchers respect these stories. They know better than to track a wounded bull after dark, know better than to follow elk that act too smart, know the difference between an animal and something else wearing its skin. There are places in the Rockies where elk aren't hunted, sacred boundaries maintained not by law, but by understanding, by respect for what lives in the high country when winter comes. Because some things are older than roads, older than towns, older than the idea that humans are the apex. And when you meet one on a dark mountain road, you'd better have a big truck and the sense to use it. Well, boys and ghouls, that wraps up another terrorific tale from the vault. Oh, poor Derek. How tragic, how unfortunate. Thought he was tracking the biggest bull of his life. Turned out the bull was tracking him. And when something wears your voice, wears your screams, uses them like tools, well, that's when you realize you were never the hunter, just how we love it. If this story hooked you the right way, hit that subscribe button. New creature features drop every day at 8 p.m. Central, and trust me, tomorrow's even nastier. Leave a like if you trust Wrecker Rourke to drag you out of trouble, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? What would you do if an elk stood up and smiled at you? I'm always hunting for the next nightmare. Remember, when the forest goes quiet, there's a reason. And if something knows your name before you've met, you'd better have a diesel and a plan. Until next time, kiddies, keep your fires burning and your winch lines ready. This has been your late night creature feature. I'm Mr. Wendigo, and the mountain is always watching.